Hello and welcome from Barcelona to coverage of an Armory event that took place on August 7. My name is Max, also known as MJet on Discord, and this is the second round, Dorinthea versus Chane. So we've got Dorinthea, who is like the old school, one of the old school greats, and now we've got Chane on the one side, and we've got Chane on the other side, who is like one of the new heroes from Monarch. And he really made a big impact in all formats, that is both in Constructed and in Blitz, being like a tier 1 hero in all of them. He's got a very powerful effect. But Dorinthea is definitely one of the tier 1 heroes in Blitz as well, so I'll be interested to see how this one is going to play out. And we see that right away, so Dorinthea was on the play, and we see chose to play a Warrior's Veiler, come in with a Dawnblade, and now after a 3-card block, we've got an Out for Blood. So I believe those might be non-attack actions, so this might be coming over for 3 damage potentially. And it is very important to note here that if he manages to hit, then not only will he be able to attack again with a Dawnblade due to the Dorinthea hero ability, he will also have Go Again because of the Warrior's Veiler. So very threatening and kind of like a scary thing. If you're going against Dorinthea on your first turn, you're not guaranteed to just sometimes with the cards you have in hand, even if you throw basically your entire hand at the attack, she might be able to come over it with the attack reactions that she has at her disposal. So I believe there was some damage dealt, and there was the debate whether you want to arsenal the defense reaction that you have or use it to pitch for another attack, and he used it to pitch for another attack. Now this one a bit interesting, a very interesting decision, because if your opponent doesn't have a 3-point attack, 3 or more point attack, then you actually get to hit a second time and come in and get a counter on the Dawnblade. But on the other hand, you lose the option to Arsenal, and it ended up not paying out for him, because the attack was blocked and he didn't get to Arsenal, which obviously is not is not that great. On your first turn, you generally want to Arsenal. But he did get to hit with his first attack, and also you can argue that putting that blue defense reaction, that blue Steelblade Shunt into Arsenal might not be the biggest deal, because you kind of want to really put a lot of pressure on Chane. You don't want to block that much, because once he reaches the 3-4 Soul Shackles, he really is going to start to have those big turns, and then trying to block him out is probably not going to be successful. So what you really want to do is put on a lot of pressure early on, and that means you want to have aggressive cards in your arsenal. We see a Ghostly Visit being played, and then we've got a full equipment block. This is a very early use of equipment. I personally like to save my equipment for on-hit triggers, for example that Nebula Blade, or there's other things that Chane likes to play, Consuming Volition for example, or Meet and Greet. It can be really nice to have like a 3-point block from hand plus a 1-point block from the equipment. But either way, he gets to preserve his life total and preserve his hand with the play that he chooses to make. And now he's looking to come back with a strong hand afterwards, and that's kind of like why you usually want to go second on Dorinthea, because Dorinthea is really good at applying pressure. But then on the other hand, he's playing against Chane, and Chane really likes to go first to start creating those soul shackles early, as soon as he can, bring them up to that critical number where he starts to flip over a lot of Blood Dead cards, and has basically ends up with like a 6-card hand or something like that, or even more later on in the game. So that's kind of like why we saw the plays the way that they were. We see a consideration of an equipment block here. This one I would be more in favor of, just because Dorinthea is really a hero that you don't want to block with cards from your hand if you can avoid it, just because you're turning on those pesky reprise effects which make her cards that much stronger. So there is like it is very the equipment actually plays a very critical role when you're playing against Dorinthea, just so you can avoid using cards from hand at a critical point in time, or just blocking even more damage preemptively, or in general. Sometimes there's also, she has the ability to give like dominate to her swings, usually later on in the game, is when she does that, trying to finish and close out the game. So then the equipment can come in handy as well. However, this attack is actually not as threatening because there's a plow through and the Stoneblade swing, so it's 6 points of damage. Obviously, that is very relevant, especially in Blitz. However, it is not. It does not have go again at this point. So if you were to say, all right, no blocks, and he does not have a Glintless Quicksilver in hand, he will have to use his boots to give this attack go again, and that would mean that that's the boots are gone for the rest of the game, and that's kind of like it can be beneficial for you. However, so he says no blocks, and he did, and what the Dorinthea player did, which I really like, is to say, in that case, I'm just trying to push as much damage as I can. Just use like an attack reaction just to push 3 extra damage instead of trying to attack twice. You get to preserve your bolters, which are continue to be a threat, and like sometimes you can say that the threat is more dangerous than the real thing. And just having to worry about that possibility of a go again attack at all times is a scary proposition. So, and he gets to just push some extra damage and use all his resources that he had available. So now though, Chane did not block, and he now has a 5-card hand. He also flipped over a Seeds of Agony from the Soul Shackle trigger that he from the Soul Shackle that he made on the first turn. So he's looking to go and come back really hard now. So that is kind of interesting. So he kind of chooses to play a bit of more aggressive against Dorinthea here. I think that's certainly a way that you can go. Another common strategy is to try on Chane just to block out, especially in Blitz, just to be very defensive and block a lot of cards in the beginning turns of the game. And then once you get to a couple more Soul Shackles, you start to try and swing the tempo around. However, he decides, I have a good hand, I'm just going to try to swing the tempo right away. And what he does is he's starting with a Seeds of Agony from the Banish Zone, pitching a blue card, making a Soul Shackle, and swing with the Nebula Blade for go again. And so that means the Nebula Blade, this is again where we come back to the equipment block earlier on. This is a kind of threatening not only 4 but in a way 5 points of damage, because if this is not fully blocked, you get to create a rune chant, and that will represent 1 arcane damage later on. And as we can also see, the Dorinthea player chooses not to play any null rune, so there's no way for him to block arcane damage, which I think is also kind of like a very interesting decision when you're playing against a hero like Chane. And lately I've personally favored not using any null rune equipment, just because it allows you to be more aggressive, or have like more utility equipment, or even just more block at your disposal, and that can be very beneficial, just because I feel like once you get to that stage of the game where you're pitching to pay for arcane damage, you're already kind of on the losing side of the equation. So he considered using his chest piece here, but it was pointed out correctly that it is currently not possible, because he only played a non-attack action, and you have to play a non-attack action and an attack action in the same turn before you can use the chest piece for resources. So instead now he chooses to pitch more and play a Howl from Beyond, as well as a Shadow of Ursa. I think we will see if he chooses to pay the alternative cost to give this go again. I believe he chooses not to. So this is coming in for 2 arcane damage, 1 from the Rune Chant, 1 from the Seeds of Agony, and now 5 points of damage, 5 points of physical damage, 3 of which will be blocked here, I believe. So we will see if there's any other reaction. And this leads me to believe that he's most likely going to put this card that he hasn't had in Arsenal. Yes, he will. And he's going to try and set up another big turn on his next turn. So he ended up taking one card from the hand of the Dorinthea player, dealing 8 damage. So we can see his plan of taking some damage and coming back strong has paid off quite nicely. Obviously, Dorinthea is still in the lead. She has 3 cards in hand, which is it's a good amount of cards on Dorinthea to do some very scary things. But at the same time, it is not a 4 or 5 card hands, which are obviously the most scary. So we will see what she will be able to do, and especially since Chane at 8 that's definitely not a whole lot of life to work with. But we will see how this is. Okay, so he's playing a yellow Warriors Veiler here, so this will give +2 and on hit go again, which is obviously not ideal. You would hope for this to be a red one, but since there are not infinite ways to have this kind of effect, you have to play some of the other colors as well if you want to give your Dawnblade go again, which is obviously very, very critical, because if you get to hit twice with it, then it really starts to snowball in your favor and become very, very scary for your opponent. So he's considering to also use his equipment here. Decides against it, just comes in with the Dawnblade. So that's a 5-point attack. This could be defended by 2 cards potentially. He still has the Chane player has a lot of his equipment available, and he might just use all of his equipment to block this. Yes, I love this. All right, so and this is really kind of like why the yellow Warriors Veiler is very unfortunate in this situation. The Chane player actually has exactly 5 points of block with his equipment, and that is so relevant because Dorinthea is reliant on those reprise triggers, and we can see that he has a Glint the Quicksilver in hand. So if he were to block with a card from hand, he could draw a card, give it go again, and then maybe draw another attack reaction to come over and actually hit. But the way that this played out, he would be able to give this sword go again, but there would be no way for him to actually attack an additional time, and no more cards in hand to do anything. So he just says, all right, I have to this kind of completely stops my advance here, and now Chane gets to have a really big turn potentially with 5 cards, with 4 cards in hand and another card in arsenal. He was a bit unfortunate, or he was quite unlucky on his flips there. No Blood Dead card, and instead actually his specialization card, which is like one of the strongest cards in the entire deck. You want to draw that one, you don't want to banish it. He does banish it, and so he does not have any extra cards to work with. But instead what he has is Art of War, so that is kind of the real Chane specialization. So that is a really, really, really strong card in this deck in particular, because you get to banish a card from your hand, and that is essentially a card that you can still play, so you don't actually lose it, and then you get to draw 2 cards, so you're netting, by the end of it you actually are 1 card up. And also you get to pick an additional effect, and this is in this case the +1/+1 as represented by the dice here. So all of his attacks this turn will have 1 additional point of strength. So every time you see an Art of War played by a Chane player on the other side of the table, you are not happy, and you will have to prepare for a beating potentially. So he's considering. We see also he's got an Enlightened Strike in hand. He plays a Shadow Puppetry from the Banish Zone, so he gives go again already. And now this is a Bounding Demigod. This is only a blue one, but it gets +1 from being played from Banish, +1 from Art of War, and +1 from Shadow Puppetry. So it is a 4-point attack, and it has the trigger from the Shadow Puppetry. So this is quite scary, considering it is just a blue attack, and it has the go again as well. So he will be able to shackle on his next attack afterwards. So there's very likely at least 2 more attacks coming after this one, and if there are 4 or more, which is very, very likely, then he will be able to present lethal on this turn, since the Dorinthea player also is out of equipment at this point. Well, he has one more block available with the Courage of Bladehold, but usually you kind of want to use that one offensively. Now, um, he says no blocks, so we get a Shadow Puppetry trigger, and he now has the option to banish this card, which he does. So it's a Howl from Beyond, so that's a Blood Dead card. So if he has enough resources available, he will be able to play this as well as additional attacks. So that is obviously very nice. As a Chane player, you like to see that. Or even you could say that whatever, I'm just going to banish it for now. I'm going to look to put on so much pressure right now that I will be able to force some cards off my opponent's hand, and then I'll just take a point of Blood Dead and have this for my next turn. So now he used the Ether Iron Weave, which is completely fine now. He used the Shadow Puppetry and the Burning Demagon, so non-attack and attack was used. Keep in mind, Out of War is not a non-attack action, it is an instant that is relevant for these kind of things. But that was completely fine. He makes 2 resources and he plays another Art of War. So he drew both of his Art of Wars on this turn. That is very, very, very scary. He chooses +1/+1 as well, so not even the Go Again, which means he will have he believes he has enough cards at his disposal to give a Go Again. So we also see the Snapdragon Scalers, so they might come in even. He banishes an attack that you can play from the banish zone as well. So we might even look at 3 more attacks this turn, both all of them buffed by +2. So he might be able to actually just kill his opponent right here. But we will see how this plays out. Either way, I would be very surprised if the Dorinthea player will have many cards left after this is all said and done. So at least I think we can expect 2 cards taken from his hand, maybe even more. But it kind of depends on the exact makeup of the hand of the Chane player. So we might, where do we start with? Oh, we start with an Enlightened Strike. Okay, that is obviously a very, very big and scary attack. I'm not sure on the mode that was used. It might be Go Again actually. So he did not draw, so that was not the choice that he made. So this is coming in for at least 7, maybe it's 9, so it's either 7 with Go Again or just straight up 9, and then maybe he will use the Snapdragon Scalers in that case. But we will kind of find out once the blocks happen. So obviously, well, if this is 9, then you have to block this, of course, because it's already presenting lethal. If it is 7, you can consider going down to 1, but now it's very, very scary not to have any of that rune, any way to block arcane damage on your equipment, because if you go down to 1 and then the Chane player says, ha, got you, I have still enough resources to just make a rune chant with my Grasp of the Arknight and come at you with any old attack, then you just immediately die. So I would expect at least 2 cards from hand to block here. But we will find out shortly. Actually, he does. I see he has a Sigil of Solace in hand, and actually he has a really good hand. He has a Steelblade Supremacy and the other specialization that I keep forgetting the name of, where he gets to search up a card. But I believe, unfortunately for him, he will not be able to play those cards, even though he would like to. And either way, I think he might not have the resources anyways. It looks like a lot of reds in this hand. But yeah, he has a Sigil of Solace, so he could actually choose to just block with less cards and then kind of like bait the rune chant play and then just say, haha, I've got a way to gain life. I'm not dead that easily, but we will see. Okay, so it's a 1-card block. So if this is coming in, okay, Snapdragon Scaler. So this was a 9 point attack. So that would mean that he takes 6 here. Yep, down to 2, and he gives Go Again, and he says, before anything crazy happens, I'm just gonna make some life here, go up to 5. And now I would expect to create a rune chant. Yes, he does. and if he has enough resources, I would expect 2 more attacks. Well, oops, there was a little error in production. I apologize for that. We've got an Unhallowed Rites, so this is a 6-point attack. He gets to put another card at the bottom of the deck. I believe the way that the game is playing out, however, this will not be relevant. I think he will, he's very, very far ahead at this point. So attacking for 6 here, presenting lethal once again, and then at least the Nebula Blade will be coming in for another 4 afterwards. So if you block 3 here and then 3 on the next one, okay, he's just saying full block. I don't want to take any damage here, and now he has a Bounty Demigod, and that's exactly 5. So that's it. I think that is just a lethal attack right here. Unless there's something that he can do. Maybe he's got a trick in arsenal, maybe he's got another Sigil of Solace hiding out there, or a defense reaction. Otherwise, I think this might just be exactsies. And there's also obviously no way to prevent this, right? You can't even... he blocks with everything that he has, and the Chane player just presents too much damage. And that's just kind of like the power of Art of War that we see at play here, right? He has ended up playing, what is it, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there was like some more cards played earlier, right? So there's a lot of cards being played, and okay, I think maybe I missed something here. Oh, of course, he blocks with the Courage of Bladehold. Yes, so he can block with the Courage of Bladehold, and that leaves him at 1 life, and he loses that obviously. And then on his turn, he just draws up. Now he's at 1. We already see a Seeds of Agony in the banish zone. So if he has any way to activate this, then that's game over. Oh, he's got another one, and it's like, oh look, I've got all this, yeah, and the Vexing Malice on top of that. All right, okay, so yes, that was the end of the game. Essentially, you had this one big turn with 2 Out of Wars, and that really turned things around. I think there's not much you can do there, but well played from Chane here, kind of like picking his spots on when to pull the trigger to try to turn the game around very well, and also using his equipment to block at the right time. And that's it for round number 2. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys for round number 3.